She swore it was just
I
one
didn't
kiss
expect to
she'd
see you
forget
here
by
tonight.
morning.
Me neither.
Months later, every
But I'm
other
glad I
mouth
did.
still
I
feels
didn't
like a
expect tonight
lie.
to be like this, but like
Tonight,
this.
she walks into a small
neither,
lounge and
but I'm
finds him
glad
at the
it is.
piano. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. Cassidy Rowe was allergic to being the emotional one. It wasn't that she didn't feel things. She felt too much. That was the problem. So a long time ago, somewhere between the boyfriend who ghosted her after moving in and the fiancé who called off their wedding via text, she'd decided feelings were for people with time to waste. Now she had rules instead. Rule 1, work first. Rule 2, never be the one who falls harder. Rule 3, kisses don't mean anything unless you let them. Tonight, rules were wrapped in a deep emerald dress that hugged her thick, curvy body like it was made just for her. The rooftop bar's fairy lights painted warm halos along her bare shoulders, and the city spread out below like it was trying to impress her. Her blonde hair fell in loose waves over her chest, the red of her lipstick sharp against her pale skin. She knew exactly how she looked. Men's eyes flickered, double-took, slid down, then yanked away when she caught them. She used that. Attention was easy. Control was easier. "Cass, you're doing it again," Ivy said, bumping her hip against Cassidy's. "You're staring at your reflection like you're about to go into battle." Cassidy smirked and dropped her phone into her small black clutch. "I am in battle with your playlist. Why is every song from 2012? It's nostalgic," Ivy protested. "Also, shut up. It's my birthday. You promised to have fun, not be a hater." Cassidy rolled her eyes but softened, leaning into her friend's side. Ivy smelled like vanilla and champagne. "I'm here, aren't I?" "Physically, yes. Mentally, still in your inbox." Ivy narrowed her eyes. "When was the last time you kissed someone for fun?" Cassidy arched a brow. "Define fun." Ivy groaned. "Exactly. You overthink everything." Before Cassidy could answer, the music stuttered, cut, then surged back with a cleaner, deeper bass. People cheered. The rooftop vibrated a little more. Cassidy's gaze drifted toward the DJ booth. He was there. The man adjusting the soundboard stood a few inches taller than most of the crowd, his dark skin catching the warm light. His close-cropped hair framed a strong face, jaw dusted with a neat beard. He wore a simple black t-shirt and fitted jeans, but somehow he looked more put together than most of the guys in blazers. Thick forearms flexed as he slid a fader, veins visible beneath smooth skin. A small tattoo curled near his wrist, disappearing under his sleeve when he moved. He glanced up. Their eyes collided. Cassidy swallowed. The contact was brief, 3 seconds maybe, but it was enough for something low in her chest to stir. His gaze didn't do the usual quick body scan. He looked at her face first, like he was trying to read her. Then one corner of his mouth lifted, slow and knowing, and he turned back to his board. "Oh." Ivy breathed, following her line of sight. "That is Malik." "Malik who?" Cassidy asked, way too fast. "Malik West, sound engineer, does live sets, records for indie artists, plays keys on Sundays for fun." Ivy's grin turned wicked. "And he is very single." "I did not ask if he was single. You didn't have to, your pupils did." Ivy nudged her. "Come on, let me introduce you." "No." Cassidy reached for a drink off the tray of a passing server, needing something to do with her hands. "We both know how this goes. I flirt, he flirts, we kiss, I get bored. It's my birthday." Ivy folded her arms. "You owe me." "Pretty sure I bought you that designer bag," Cassidy reminded her. "And now I want a moment," Ivy shot back. "A memory, preferably of you not married to your phone for once. Also, you literally just described a perfectly good night. Flirt, flirt, kiss, go home. What's the problem?" Cassidy sipped her drink. "No problem, I'm just not looking for complicated." "Who said anything about complicated?" Ivy's eyes sparkled. "It's just one kiss." The words slid into Cassidy's ears like a challenge. Just one kiss. She rolled them around in her mind and tasted old panic, old promises. She pushed both away. "We're too old for dares." "Exactly why we need them." Ivy grabbed her hand. "New rule, for tonight only. If he comes over here, you owe me one real kiss. No half-hearted peck, no oops, it's loud, I tripped. A real one. You can go back to your Ice Queen agenda tomorrow." Cassidy opened her mouth to argue and froze when she realized Malik was descending the small steps from the booth, walking directly toward them. Her pulse lurched. "He's coming this way," Ivy whispered, triumphant. "You're welcome." Cassidy felt suddenly aware of everything, of how the dress hugged her stomach and hips, of the warmth in her cheeks, of the way the city breeze curled around her bare legs. She straightened her spine, rolling her shoulders back, slipping her usual mask into place. Nothing could touch you unless you let it. Remember? Hey, Ivy. Malik's voice was low and smooth, molded for late-night radio and slow songs. He gave her friend a quick hug, then glanced at Cassidy again. You gonna introduce me? Ivy practically glowed. Malik, this is Cassidy. Cassidy, this is Malik. He saved my last recording session from sounding like it was underwater. That's a very generous exaggeration, he said, eyes flicking back to Cassidy. Happy birthday, by the way. It's her birthday, Ivy corrected, pointing to herself. She's just here to look intimidating and judge my life choices. I don't judge, Cassidy said, though her tone was dry. I observe. Malik's gaze warmed, amused. And what are you observing about tonight? She lifted her drink. Weak cocktails, strong nostalgia, questionable playlist. He laughed, head tipping back slightly. The sound wrapped around her like heat. You wound me. I fixed the sound, not the tracks. Ivy sent those. Traitor, Ivy hissed, then shrugged. Whatever, they hit. Malik shifted his weight, attention settling fully on Cassidy now. So, Cassidy who observes and judges, what would make the night better for you? His eyes weren't shy. They were steady, like he could see right through the way she leaned on sarcasm. Cassidy felt something pull, like a string inside her had been gently hooked. Less small talk, she said. More honesty. He hummed, considering that. Honesty, huh? Okay, honest answer. I noticed you the second you walked up here. Before I even fixed the first cable. You looked like you were daring the world to disappoint you. Ivy's eyebrows shot up. Cassidy felt a flush crawling up her throat. And what made you think that? The way you stand, Malik said simply. Ready to leave at any second. Shoes pointed at the exit. Phone half out of your bag. Like you promised someone you'd stay, but you're already halfway gone in your head. He didn't say it cruelly. He said it like an observation, like he was describing the weather. But somehow it hit harder than any line she'd ever heard. Cassidy swallowed. You always psychoanalyze strangers at parties? Only the interesting ones, he said, eyes crinkling faintly at the corners. You can do me next. Fair's fair. Easy. She shot back, grateful for the escape route. You're a control freak. He blinked. Oh? You pretend to be chill, she continued, nodding toward the soundboard. But no one who just vibes fusses over that many knobs. You like things tuned exactly right, and you're hiding up there half the night, which means you like being in the room without being the center of it. You pull strings. You don't perform. Ivy looked between them like she was watching tennis. Malik smiled slowly. You're not wrong. Something charged crackled in the air between them. The music, the laughter, the clinking glasses, all of it faded just a little. Cassidy's heart thumped once, twice, too hard. Ivy cleared her throat. Okay, this is fun, but I need to go accept more drinks in my honor. She squeezed Cassidy's arm, leaning whisper close. Remember, one real kiss, you owe me. Then she disappeared into the crowd, leaving Cassidy alone with Malik and the shallow echo of her own rules. He tilted his head toward the edge of the rooftop. Want to get some air? It's quieter by the railing. I promise not to psychoanalyze you more than absolutely necessary. Debatable, she muttered, but she went. They walked side by side, shoulders almost brushing. The city was louder at the edge, the rush of cars, the distant wail of a siren, the hum of a million lives. Wind tugged at her hair, made the hem of her dress flare around her thighs. She rested her forearms on the cool metal railing, looking out. It's beautiful, she said quietly. Yeah, he murmured. It is. When she glanced over, he wasn't looking at the skyline. Her chest tightened. She could walk away. She knew how. Turn this into a joke, toss a flirty line, exit before it mattered. Instead, she heard herself say lightly, So, honesty, right? Right, he said. Ivy thinks I'm too careful to let anything get to me. Cassidy forced a small smile. She dares me to do reckless things sometimes, like go for just one kiss and not overthink it. The moment the words left her mouth, she wanted to snatch them back. They sounded flimsy and obvious in the open air, but Malik's gaze softened, something like understanding flickering there. He stepped closer, leaving only a breath between them, his voice lower now. And what do you think? He asked. Is there such a thing as just one kiss? Her throat went dry. She looked at his mouth, then back up at his eyes. The rooftop slipped out of focus. "I think," Cassidy said slowly, pulse hammering in her ears, "if it's just one kiss, then it shouldn't be a big deal." He held her gaze, no pressure in his hands, no grab at her waist. "Then we should probably find out." The world seemed to narrow to the space between them, to the faint smell of his cologne, clean, warm, like cedar and something darker. Cassidy heard Ivy's voice in her head, teasing. "It's just one kiss." She let her rules slide, just an inch, then another. "Okay," she whispered, tasting the lie even as she said it. Just one. When Malik leaned in and his lips met hers, the city didn't quite disappear, but for a heartbeat it felt like it could. The kiss was supposed to be a spark. It felt like a fault line tearing quietly open. Malik didn't rush it. His mouth brushed hers once, light and testing, like he was asking a question no words could carry. Cassidy had time, too much time, to decide to pull back, to laugh it off, to make some dry comment and reset the night. She didn't. She leaned in. His hand stayed respectful at the small of her back, not dragging her close, just resting there, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. The city hummed below them, horns, music, laughter, but everything tunneled down to the press of his lips, the way he tilted his head just enough for their mouths to fit, the faint taste of mint and something darker. When his tongue slid against hers, unhurried, something low in her stomach clenched. "You've done this before," she told herself. "It's just a kiss." But it didn't feel like the others. There was no frantic rush, no clumsy grab, no sense of performing. It felt patient, like he was there, fully, not thinking about what came next. Her fingers betrayed her first, one hand fisted in the front of his t-shirt, the other curled near his collarbone, clutching. For a second she forgot there were other people on the rooftop at all. When they finally broke apart, they stayed close, foreheads almost touching, both of them breathing a little harder than before. "Okay," Malik murmured, his voice rougher now. "Honest feedback?" She tried to clear her throat, tried to find that detached, lightly mocking tone she always used. I don't think that was a just one kiss kind of kiss." Her chest fluttered and tightened at the same time. She forced a smirk. "You rating your own performance?" He huffed an amused breath, his thumb unconsciously tracing a small circle against her back before he caught himself and dropped his hand. "I'm saying you feel a lot for someone who doesn't want complicated." There it was again, him seeing too much. Cassidy stepped back, needing air. The night suddenly felt too clear, too sharp, like if she wasn't careful she'd say something real. "It was nice," she said, hating how thin it sounded even as she said it. "You're good." He studied her face, his expression gentling. "There it is, there what is. The part where you start minimizing things before they can matter." Malik said quietly, "It's okay, I get it." "I don't want you to get it," she almost snapped, because understanding was more dangerous than flirting. "I should go check on Ivy," Cassidy said instead, folding her arms. "Make sure she hasn't started karaoke without supervision." He didn't block her path or insist on more. It should have made it easier to walk away. Instead, it made her feel exposed. "Sure," he said. "Before you disappear into the crowd, can I see your phone?" She hesitated. "Why?" "So I can give you something," he said. "You get to decide later if you use it." His tone wasn't pushy. No promises. No "I'll call you." Just an option. That, more than the kiss, was what made her hand move. Cassidy passed him her phone. Malik typed his number in, then added, "Malik, rooftops and honesty," and handed it back. "Good branding," she said, trying for light. "I'm a musician," he replied, a small smile tugging at his mouth. "We like themes." He stepped backward, hands in his pockets now. "No pressure. You don't text, that's okay. But for what it's worth." His gaze softened. "You didn't look bored." He turned and walked back toward the soundboard before she could argue. Cassidy stood by the railing a few more seconds, heart hammering, Malik's contact glowing on her screen like a dare. It's just one kiss, she reminded herself. So why did it feel like something had been rearranged inside her without permission? She made it home on autopilot. Her apartment was exactly the way she liked it. Clean lines, neutral tones, soft lamplight against warm wood. No photos of exes. No clutter. The only personal chaos lived in her walk-in closet, where dresses in jewel tones pressed together like secrets. Cassidy kicked off her heels, towing them toward the door, and pulled her hair up into a loose knot. She scrubbed off the red lipstick in the bathroom, staring at her reflection. Without the lipstick and the armor of the rooftop dress, she looked younger, tired. You are not a teenager, she told herself. It was a kiss. You've had better. The lie burned as soon as it left her mouth. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Ivy, where are you, traitor? Cassidy smiled despite herself and texted back. Cass, home. You abandoned me to go accept free drinks in your honor. I consider us even. Did you kiss him? Don't lie, I will know. Cassidy's thumb hovered over the keyboard. She could say no. Pretend the almost electric pull against the railing hadn't happened. But if there was one person who saw straight through her, it was Ivy. Yes. 3 dots blinked. And Cass forced an eye roll she didn't feel, and it was one kiss. Calm down. Go enjoy your birthday. Uh-huh. You always say it's just about the things that scare you the most. We'll talk tomorrow. Cassidy locked her phone, throat tight. She lay in bed afterwards, staring at the ceiling, city light leaking in around the edges of the blackout curtains. Sleep should have come easily. She was exhausted. She'd had just enough to drink to soften the edges. Instead, her mind replayed the night in loops. The way he'd described her posture like he'd known her for years. The way he hadn't grabbed, hadn't pushed, hadn't tried to turn the kiss into an audition for something else. The way he'd said, "You didn't look bored." At some point, sometime between 2 and 3 in the morning, Cassidy realized something cold and unfamiliar was bleeding into the edges of her chest. Fear. Not of him. He'd been nothing but respectful. Fear of herself, of what might happen if she loosened her grip on the rules she'd built around her heart. She turned onto her side, dragged the pillow close, and gave herself one last command. You will get up tomorrow, go to work, and forget how this feels. She did get up. She did go to work. Forgetting was the part that refused to cooperate. Her office on the 21st floor buzzed with its usual Monday morning chaos. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, the low murmur of people who lived on caffeine and deadlines. Cassidy slid into her role like a tailored blazer. Project manager, problem solver, crisis extinguisher. Her curves were hugged today by a high-waisted pencil skirt and a cream blouse. She'd done her hair in a sleek twist, lipstick back to its usual sharp red, no trace of the woman who'd melted against a rooftop railing. Morning, Cass. Her colleague Noah waved a folder. I sent you the revisions on the campaign. You're going to hate them. I always do, she said, taking the folder. That's why they pay me. She made it 3 meetings, 1 presentation, and half a cup of coffee before Malik invaded the margins of her focus. Not on purpose. He drifted in like a song stuck in her head. A hand gesture reminded her of his. Someone laughed with that same deep vibration, and her body went tight for no reason. At lunch, Ivy called. This is a hostile takeover, Ivy said as soon as Cassidy answered. Of your sanity. How are you? I'm at work, Cassidy said pointedly, so emotionally fragile and in denial. Got it. Ivy lowered her voice. He asked about you after you left, you know. Cassidy's stomach dipped. Ivy. He didn't chase me for your number, Ivy added. Didn't beg. Just, is she okay? Like you were some skittish stray cat and he didn't want to spook you. Charming, Cassidy muttered. Endearing, Ivy corrected. Also, he has a set at that small lounge on 8th tonight. You should come. No. Cassidy swiveled in her chair, staring out the window at the grid of glass and steel. That's not whatever last night was. It doesn't extend into my week. I have a deadline. Ivy was quiet for a beat. Cass, it's music, a drink, and a man who kissed you like he meant it. This isn't signing your life away. The part of Cassidy that had leaned into Malik's lips last night, that had clutched his shirt without thinking, that part stirred. The rest of her doubled down. I'm not built for whatever you're trying to script here, she said softly. You know that. I know you've survived a lot and decided the only safe way to love is to not, Ivy said. Gentler now. I also know your heart never actually signed that contract. Cassidy pressed her eyes closed, old images pressed up against the back of her lids, her ex-fiancé's message notification popping up while she stood in a half-packed apartment, the single line, I can't do this. No call, no explanation, just absence. Her chest tightened. I have to go. My meeting starts in 5. Fine, Ivy sighed, but if you change your mind, I'll be at the lounge by 8. I'll keep a seat open. And Cass? Yeah? It's allowed to be more than just one kiss, Ivy said quietly. even if that scares you. Cassidy hung up without answering. She told herself the restless feeling in her bones for the rest of the day was caffeine. Stress. Anything but the truth. By 7:30 she was still at her desk, the office mostly emptied, a soft hush settling over the floor. Her cursor blinked on an unfinished email. She stared at it like it might rearrange into meaning if she glared hard enough. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Malik. Ivy gave me your work email by accident, and I refuse to be the guy who emails your corporate account to ask you out. So I demanded the number instead. Hope that's not creepy. A second later, playing at Ember Lounge on 8th in about 30 minutes. No pressure. If you're busy, put your phone face down and forget this. If you're not, would be nice to see you somewhere that isn't a rooftop with half-broken speakers. Her heart lurched painfully against her ribs. He shouldn't have felt different from all the other men who'd asked for pieces of her time, but the message was so easy. No expectations. He kept giving her exits, and somehow that made it harder to take them. She picked up the phone, stared at his text for a long beat, then typed with fingers that shook more than she wanted to admit. Cass, I'm still at work. I'm not great at the casual thing. I shouldn't come. His reply came fast. Totally fair. For what it's worth, I'm not great at casual either. I'm just good at honest. Doors open if you change your mind. If not, I'll still be playing. Somewhere, some night. He sent a little music note emoji. Just that. Cassidy set the phone down like it burned. She looked at the time on her laptop. 7:38 p.m. She could stay. Finish the email. Go home to her clean apartment and her well-organized solitude. Keep her rules intact and her heart quiet, locked behind its efficient walls. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "It's just one night," like some doomed benediction. She grabbed her coat. By the time she reached 8th, rain had started. Fine, misty drops turning the streetlights into halos. Ember Lounge glowed warm through its front windows, amber light spilling onto the wet sidewalk. Cassidy paused outside, hand on the door, her reflection warped by droplets. You can still turn around. She walked in anyway. The music hit her first. A slow, soulful melody rolling out of an upright piano, threaded with something that sounded like longing. The room was small but intimate. Brick walls, low ceiling, tables tucked close. Conversations hummed under the notes. Malik sat at the piano, head slightly bowed, fingers moving with an ease that made it look like the instrument was an extension of him. His eyes were closed, mouth relaxed, brow furrowed, like he was feeling every note he played. For a moment, Cassidy just watched. This was different from the rooftop. There, he'd been in control, fixing cables, choosing tracks. Here, he looked almost vulnerable, giving something away with each chord. Ivy caught her eye from a small table near the front and lit up, waving frantically. Malik's eyes opened at the movement. His fingers didn't falter, but when he saw Cassidy standing in the doorway, something shifted in his expression. Surprise, then something warmer, deeper. He didn't break the song. He just held her gaze for one beat, then another, as if rewiring the entire melody around the fact that she was there. Cassidy's throat tightened. It was a bad idea. Coming here. Letting the kiss stretch into a second night. A second choice. Because as she slid into the seat beside Ivy and felt her pulse sink involuntarily to the rise and fall of Malik's music, one truth settled heavy and undeniable in her chest. Whatever this was, her heart had already stopped being something she could walk away from unchanged. The song wound down on a lingering chord that felt like a question. Applause rose soft and warm around the room. Ivy leaned over, whispering, "You came," like it was proof she'd been right about something. Cassidy didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat was tight, her chest full in a way work never managed to touch. Malik stood from the piano, said something low into the mic about taking a short break, then stepped down from the tiny stage. People stopped him, clapped him on the shoulder, told him it was beautiful. He accepted it all with that easy nod, that half smile, until he reached their table. Then the rest of the room faded from his face. "Hey!" he said quietly. "Hey!" Cassidy replied, fingers curled too tightly around her glass. "I'm going to pretend I'm not surprised you're here," Malik went on, his eyes soft, amused. "For my ego." "You shouldn't be," she said, lifting her chin. "Your invitation had a music note emoji. Very persuasive." He huffed a laugh. "I'll keep that in mind." Ivy made a show of stretching. I'm gonna go check on the bartender, make sure the drinks aren't poisoned or tragic." She slid away before either of them could stop her. Suddenly, they were alone at the small table. A candle flickered between them, catching the gold in his eyes, the gloss on her mouth. Cassidy wet her lips. "You're good," she said. "At the piano." "Thanks." Malik sat, forearms resting on his thighs, leaning in just a little. "I was going to say you're good at pretending you don't want to be here." She bristled. "I didn't say I don't want to be here." "You said you're not great at the casual thing," he reminded her gently. "And you came anyway." Her heart stuttered. "I shouldn't have." "Probably not," he agreed easily. "But you did. That matters more to me than whatever rules you wrote for yourself 2 heartbreaks ago." She looked away, heat pricking behind her eyes at how close he'd landed to the truth. "You know nothing about my heartbreaks." "I know the way you flinch when I say the word," Malik said. "But you're right, I don't know the story. You don't owe it to me." Silence stretched between them, not quite comfortable, not quite tense. The music from the speakers filled the gaps, a low, slow jazz number that made everything feel closer. Cassidy exhaled. "My fiancé broke up with me over text," she said abruptly. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe it was the candlelight. Maybe it was the piano still echoing in her bones. Maybe it was the fact that he had never once asked, "So what happened?" with that hungry curiosity other men carried, like her pain was a story for their entertainment. Malik didn't react with outrage or pity. He just sat there listening. "We'd put a deposit down on a venue," she continued, words tumbling out now. "I had a dress. We'd been arguing, but I thought, you know," she swallowed. "I thought everybody argues. Then one night, I'm packing a box of mugs in our kitchen and my phone buzzes. It's him. A paragraph that could have been a grocery list, except it was the end of our life." She pulled her gaze back to Malik's face. "After that, I decided my heart was a liability. I kept my body, my banter, my mind, locked the rest up." He nodded slowly. "You turned yourself into a fortress." "I turned myself into someone who doesn't mistake kisses for promises," she corrected. "Does that work?" he asked, voice quiet. "Not mistaking, not feeling." She opened her mouth to say yes, to throw his question back as a joke. Instead, she heard herself admit, "It worked until last night." The words hung there, raw and fragile. Something moved in his expression, surprise, then a tenderness that made her want to look away and lean in at the same time. "For what it's worth," Malik said, his voice rougher now, "I didn't kiss you like a promise I couldn't keep. I kissed you like a possibility I wanted a chance to earn." Her heart did something painful and wild in her chest. "Possibilities get messy," she whispered. "Yeah," he agreed, "so do great songs and good lives." He glanced at the stage as the bartender waved for him. "I gotta get back up there in a minute, but I want to ask you something before I do." She straightened, bracing without meaning to. "You asking for a second kiss already?" "No," he said, though his smile said he'd thought about it. "I'm asking if you'll let this be more than something you pre-decide how to recover from." She blinked. "What?" "You walked in tonight like you already had the ending written," Malik said. "Like, okay, this will hurt. I'll shut it down. I'll go back to my life. You're so busy preparing the breakup speech, you're not even in the first verse yet." She stared at him, pulse in her throat. "I'm not asking you to promise forever," he continued. "I'm not asking you to fall in love. I'm asking if you'll just let this be real. Whatever it is, let it matter. See where it goes without treating your own heart like collateral damage you can't afford." Her eyes burned. She blinked hard. "I don't know how," she admitted, voice small. He smiled, soft and a little sad. "Good thing I'm patient." The bartender gestured again. Malik stood, fingers brushing lightly over the back of her hand as he passed. The touch was brief, almost nothing. It felt like everything. "Stay?" he asked. She nodded before she could think better of it. "They didn't become a couple overnight. They became something else first. Texts that started as light, memes about clients, photos of half-burned toast, a picture of the crooked soundboard with the caption, 'Thought of you criticizing my knobs,' turned into longer threads. Voice notes at odd hours. Coffee runs that just happened to line up. He invited her to a rehearsal one Saturday. She almost said no. She went anyway. She watched him correct a singer's timing, gentle but firm, watched him lose himself in the music, body swaying slightly, eyes shut. At one point, he caught her watching and sent her a half smile that felt like a private track only she could hear. He came to her office once, meeting her downstairs for lunch. He saw her in full armor, sharp skirt, sharper heels, directing a junior colleague with swift, efficient instructions. When she joined him on the sidewalk, breath slightly elevated, he didn't joke about her being bossy. "You're good at this," he said simply. "No wonder you're tired." She took him to her apartment for the first time 3 weeks after Ember Lounge. Letting him in felt more intimate than undressing. He walked slowly through the neat rooms, running his fingers lightly over the spines of her books, the edge of a framed print. "Where are your photos?" he asked. She shrugged, defensive. "In my phone." "Your life looks like a catalogue," he said gently. "Beautiful, but like no one lives here." "You're here," she shot back. He turned, eyes warm. "Yeah," he said. "I am." He cooked for her that night, pasta and roasted vegetables, humming under his breath in her kitchen like he'd always belonged there. At one point, music from his playlist, some soulful love song, spilled into the space. Cassidy felt a familiar panic rise. "This song is a lot," she said, reaching for her phone to skip it. He caught her wrist lightly. "Leave it. Malik." "You can feel things and survive," he said. "I promise." The word made her flinch. He saw it. He didn't apologize for saying it. Instead, he pulled her into a slow dance right there on her kitchen tile, their bodies fitting together in a way that made her eyes sting. "I'm scared," she whispered against his shoulder. "I know," he murmured into her hair. "So am I. That's how you know it's not nothing." She kissed him again that night. It was not just one. It was slow, messy, honest. They didn't have sex. He could have pushed. She could have used it to keep things physical and safe. Instead, they fell asleep, tangled on her couch, fully clothed, his hand resting over her heart like he trusted it to keep beating. For the first time in a long time, she didn't wake up alone. The break didn't come with a slammed door. It came with an email. Subject line, opportunity. Relocation required. The promotion was exactly what she'd been working toward for years. Head of a new branch in another city, more money, more responsibility. A clear ladder up. It landed in her inbox on a Wednesday morning, the words sharp and clean. She skimmed the details with a rising sense of vertigo. New York. They wanted her in New York. Her first thought was, I did it. Her second thought was Malik. He noticed the shift in her before she said anything. That night, sitting opposite her in a booth at their usual late-night diner, he watched her push fries around her plate, eyes distant. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing," she lied. She sighed. "I got offered a promotion, big one. New city." His face didn't fall the way she braced for. He nodded slowly. "Okay, that's huge. Congratulations." "That's it," she demanded. "Okay? What do you want me to say?" he asked, steady. "No. Yes," she snapped before she could stop herself. "Or something. I don't know. You're supposed to look upset, Malik." He studied her for a long moment. "I am upset," he said finally. "I'm also proud of you." She twisted the napkin in her hands. "I can't do long distance. I didn't ask you to decide that tonight." "I can't split myself," she pressed on, panic clawing up her throat. "I worked for this. My whole life. I can't throw it away because I got attached." There it was, the ugly, terrified truth. Attachment as a threat. Love as something that stole. His jaw flexed. "Is that what you think this is? Something stealing from you?" "I think you're starting to matter too much," she said, voice breaking. "And if I don't cut it off now, it's going to ruin me when it ends." He went quiet. When he spoke, his voice was very soft. "So you'd rather break your own heart first?" Tears stung, hot and humiliating. "It was just supposed to be one kiss," she whispered. "One night. I never meant for it to be. Real." He finished when she couldn't. She nodded, hating herself. Malik leaned back like he needed distance to breathe. Pain flickered across his face, pure and unmasked. It hit her harder than any angry outburst. "I can't promise you we'd be perfect," he said, each word careful. "I can't promise we'd never hurt each other, but I was ready to try, with you, to figure out the messy middle instead of pre-writing the ending. I'm not built for this," she choked out. He looked at her for a long time, eyes shimmering. "The truth," he said, "you are. You just don't trust that you'll survive it." He slid out of the booth, standing there for a beat like he wanted to reach for her and didn't trust himself to. "I won't chase you," he said quietly. "That would turn into something ugly for both of us. But for what it's worth, Cassidy, she looked up at him, tears spilling now. That first kiss, Malik said, it changed me too. I just chose to let that be the beginning, not the excuse for my retreat. He walked out of the diner without looking back, her heart cracked wide open. She took the promotion. Of course she did. She packed her apartment into tidy boxes, signed papers, booked flights. On the outside, she looked exactly like she'd always wanted to. Sharp, decisive, unstoppable. On the inside, something bled slowly. New York was faster, louder, brighter. The office there needed her. She excelled because she always did. But no matter how high her title climbed, no matter how crisp her blouses or straight her posture, she couldn't put her heart back in the vault. Malik's number stayed in her phone. She didn't delete his texts. She tried not to scroll back and read them. Some nights she failed. She dated. Men who were nice. Men who were ambitious. Men who kissed her and made her feel nothing but the press of mouths. Every time, some part of her compared without consent. It's not him. It's not that rooftop. It's not that piano. It's not that diner booth and the way he said my name like it was a song he'd written. Months passed. She heard from Ivy sometimes in quick calls and photos. A new show here. A random selfie there. Once a blurry clip of Malik playing in a bigger venue, lights brighter, crowd thicker. He looked the same. Maybe a little more tired around the eyes. Her chest ached. She hadn't recovered. Not really. The wound had scabbed over, thin and tender, but it was still there. Touch it the wrong way, and it throbbed. One night, nearly a year after that first kiss, Cassidy found herself on a business trip, back in the city she'd left. She told herself she wouldn't call anyone. She'd go from hotel to meeting to airport like a ghost. Instead, she found her feet taking her down a familiar street. Ember Lounge's sign still glowed. Her heart hammered so hard she had to stop half a block away, one hand pressed to her ribs. You could walk away, she told herself. You already broke it. You survived. But that was the lie, wasn't it? She hadn't survived intact. She'd survived changed. The kiss she thought she'd recover from had become the before and after line of her life. She walked in. The room smelled the same, whiskey and wood polish and something warm. Music flowed, rich and low. Malik was there at the piano, head bent, fingers moving like prayer. He looked up halfway through the song and saw her. Shock flashed across his face, then something like grief, then something like hope, faint and fragile. He finished the piece. This time he didn't stop for anyone on his way down from the stage. They stood in front of each other, the air thick with all the words they hadn't said. "Hey," she whispered. "Hey," he answered, voice rough. "I thought I'd recover," Cassidy said, no preamble, no armor. "From you, from that kiss, from all of it. I built my whole life around the idea that I could walk away from anything and come out untouched." He swallowed, eyes dark, searching her face. "I didn't," she continued, tears blurring the lights. "I'm not recovered. I don't think I ever will be. You cracked something open in me that doesn't close. I hate it. I'm grateful for it. I'm terrified of it." A shaky laugh broke out of her chest. "I don't have a speech. I don't have a plan. All I know is that every time I kiss someone else, my heart feels like it's lying." It was his turn to blink back tears. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said. "I just needed you to know that it was never just one kiss for me either. It ruined the version of me who thought she could outrun her own heart." He stepped closer, slow, like approaching a scared animal. "Cassidy," he said softly, "I never wanted to break you." "You didn't," she whispered. "You broke what was already cracked. You're the bruise that proves I'm still alive under the armor." Silence sat with them for a long, fragile moment. Finally, Malik exhaled. "I can't pretend the way it ended didn't hurt," he said. "I can't promise I won't be scared if we try again." "I don't want promises," she said. "I want presence, honesty, the messy middle you talked about, if you still want any of that with me." He studied her face like she was a song he hadn't decided the key for yet. Then, slowly, he offered his hand. "Start with a walk after my set," he said. "No exile plans, no exit speeches, just you, me, and the fact that our hearts never really got over that first kiss." Her fingers slid into his, warm, familiar. Cassidy felt the old, careful version of herself curl up at the edges and burn. Her heart didn't recover. It learned to live differently, beating softer in some places and louder in others, Malik's name stitched into its rhythm. And when he leaned in later that night, under a different sky but with the same careful hands, and kissed her again. She didn't call it just one anymore.